Hello and welcome to another edition of Behind Enemy Lines. We've got our man back twice in 3 weeks. What? Mike, our guy, AZ Sports fan here on YouTube, has returned back now. It's also one of my cohorts on the NFC West Roundtable show. Subscribe now. And I do want to say thank you, Mike, for coming in here and pulling the double duty on this twice in 3 weeks, pulling you back into the frame on it. Thanks for coming on in to help preview this matchup up. I guess we talked a little bit about this on the roundtable, but I'd love to know just kind of where at current moment, where's your mindset with this team? Much like my team, there's been these shifts and flows. It's so much easier sometimes when your team just gives you a clean narrative of what they are and who they are, and then you know what they are by this time of the year. But in some cases, with us both on our teams, we don't exactly know where the final form of these teams is going.
Yeah, it's funny. The last time we met, I almost kind of felt like we flipped it. Like it's like you don't know what your team, and then my team was like, "Oh, we're a 4-game winning streak coming off the bye. Where thing was good," but like it almost kind of felt like it was flipped now. Like now the Cardinals are on a 2-game losing streak, and we need to get it right. There needs to be some sort of way to get right, and it's unfortunate that that's the Seattle Seahawks because you guys had our number for a very, very long time. And it almost kind of felt like in the beginning of the season when we had the Rams, I believe it was week 2, where we know what's in front of us. We know that you got to win this game in order for you to stay within the division. But like you look at history and you're like, oh, well, what's going to happen there? So right now, the way the fan base is feeling right now, I could honestly say it's pretty split. It's pretty split with a lot of people that kind of turned it off because truthfully, the Cardinals had 2 opportunities back to back with, trying to gain some sort of ground within the NFC West. And they had it against the Vikings. They squandered it in the last minute or 2 of the fourth quarter. And of course, the defensive battle that we had, in week 12 versus the Hawks, throwing a pick 6. And it's just kind of one of these things where a lot of Cardinal fans feel like deja vu. Right? They feel like that, oh man, here we go again. The Cardinals are going to be the Arizona Cardinals, where they gave us a little hope and then they bring it right back. But of course, me being the fan that I am, I'm going to stick it through every single season, regardless if it's a 2-3 win season. I'm always going to be watching because I love to see exactly like the progression and what happens in this team. But right now it's an emotional roller coaster. I would rather it not be. I would rather be in the top of the division and us beating you 2 weeks ago. But unfortunately, that's just not the way that it goes. So right now, a lot of questions. Still have, I'm not going to say I guess the destiny in our hands in terms of maybe not for the division, because I know you guys are kind of in the driver's seat right now, but I don't know. It's kind of up in the air right now. We do have Darius Robinson coming back last week, but he's really kind of the only difference that we have in terms of players from like the last time that we met to now. It's just I'm curious to figure out how Drew Petzing and our defensive coordinator is going to be able to maneuver this game, specifically because there's no elements, right? There's no rain coming down us. So it's going to be more in our terms in terms of playing in a dome. So I'm just very, very curious to figure out how they're going to do that.
So if they round it out to an 8-9 win season, those people that are split that are sort of checking out right now, would those people be in the camp of feeling like this wasn't a successful second year for Ganon, or that there's some of that trepidation at play there?
That's a good question. It is. And I had a conversation with a lot of, the subscribers yesterday as well. To me, I feel like 8 wins would be a success. Now, yes, it does fall short of the potential dream of playoffs, because I think we can all kind of agree, or maybe not. But if you want to get into the playoffs within this division, you got to win the West. You have to win the division to try to get in there, because just of how much is going on within the East, or I guess the 2 teams, but the North is so freaking stacked right now. I don't know, it almost kind of feels like there is a group of old Cardinal fans, and I'm not meaning age, but like, well, I guess maybe age, but like they've been with the Cardinals for quite some time, that it's just like, I don't know, they just don't believe in not so much the regime, but who's at the helm. Kyler Murray, just because of the inconsistencies of what they've seen. I've seen multiple people come out and said, hey, I've been riding with the Cardinals for 20 plus years. And I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it. You could see flashes here and there. But to me, if you're asking me specifically, I do think of 8 wins as a win personally. Now, of course, that's only 2 wins. So that means you're taking 2 out of the next 5, which sucks because if you think of it that way, but I mean, that's a success to me. Second year of Jonathan Gannon. But we are kind of in a weird situation, because I feel like every single week, I kid you not, like every single week, it's either you're high on Kyler, or it's like I don't know anymore. So it's like it's a really weird situation to be in because the fan base right now is either pro Kyler or against him. And I'm just going for the ride, and I just want to see how this plays out.
There's a drive right now, I think, in modern fan bases, and I don't know if it's other sports, but NFL in particular, where I feel a drive sometimes to find conclusions after games on
Yeah.
players, on coaches, rather than, hey, we're going through a season. Okay, now we've got a determination right now. Kyler's definitely not the guy, right?
Right.
You see this now, Mike, right? You see it,
Yeah.
right, Mike? They'll say that in the chat and stuff. You go, I just want to let's see how it goes through the season here with the guy with his second year, and I come back, you get to 8 or 9 wins, you more than double. If you get to 9 wins, you more than double your win total from last year. And
Yeah.
Ganon, and when he walked in on it, and I would be in the same place where I'd be my head be scratching a little bit, where there's some slight vibes and energy I feel off some Cardinal fan base, the same kind of vibes and energy I'm getting a little bit the Niner fan base with their situation on that, just to a degree on it, where I go, hey, you guys are it's a different place. The money you have to spend this offseason, some of the young players you got in point, where how you're building it, and the buy-in you got from the players with this head coach, to me tells you now Kyler's maybe a bit of a different story on this, but at least coach and what you got culture wise in there seems to be the right spot for it on that.
Yep.
Let's talk about Kyler though. And by the way, before we get to Kyler, folks, we do this one thing here when we got guests in who take time out of their day, like my man Mike has done. We're going to click down the description link section below. That's a direct link to AZ Sports Fans channel, and we're going to go sub up to him. All right, you'll be over many times in the future. We do the NFC West Roundtable show, so please do show him the love for showing the love coming on here as he is. Kyler Murray, you talked a little bit last night on the situation, and you're in an interesting place with the Kyler Murray contract because you go into year 3 this offseason with it, to where you can make a determination. And you guys are at that very important stage of this, hey, 8 or 9 wins, the flower's coming out, that's about to bloom now, but the quarterback is always the most important part of that puzzle. And I know I just said don't reach conclusions on this one way or the other.
Right.
Let's say Kyler fits out to the performance you've seen from him so far this year. Some good, some bad, inconsistency maybe within there. Where does that leave you standing with Kyler, knowing that, you're going to want this year then with that money to spend to hyper inject this thing? Like, all right, we went through the low level talent. We built it up. We cleared money off the books and made sure we got the money to spend on this. We can get out of Kyler's deal if it's not the right. We don't have to be in this. Where would you land on that?
I mean, it's an interesting situation. I mean, right now, I'm not so. To me specifically, right? I can only speak for myself, and I know there's a lot of people within the fan base that tries to get me to sway some way, because obviously the podcast and kind of the voice that you have within the community of the Arizona Cardinals. But I mean, truthfully, Kyler Murray right now, I mean, obviously signed under contract for a good majority of 2028, but like in terms of guaranteed salary, he doesn't have guaranteed salary in 2026. To me, like, I try not to focus on what's the replacement. Like, to me, my solution is just I need him to get better. Like, I need him to continue to progress into becoming that franchise quarterback. Because you got to think of it as we got a lot of money next year. And it's funny because this fan base, the way they look at it, depending on either or, right? And we're so back and forth. Like, if we were, let's say, for example, on a 5-game winning streak, all the people that said, "Oh, this is year 2 rebuild," they were like, "Oh yeah, we're so good." But like then they go away when like we're on a 2-game losing streak. But like this is going to be a very big offseason for the Cardinals because we got so much money to spend. And if you do that, of course, Kyler Murray is still going to be under contract, and you're going to be building more of a team, hopefully more defensively. We can get some more pieces on the defensive side of the ball. And then the offense. And you're the one that really opened my eyes 2 weeks ago with the whole wide receiver talk, because before you actually asked me, and I'm like, oh, I wasn't thinking about it. But like, now I'm starting to see mock drafts, and I don't know if it's one of those things where it's like you plant it in the seed and now you're starting to see it, like, right? Like, oh, I start riding a Vespa, and now Vespa's everywhere, right? So it's kind of like one of those things. So now my mind's kind of open to everything. Although specifically, I would still love to go defensive, right? Especially in the draft, in free agency. I mean, my eyes are kind of open to the idea of potentially upgrading everywhere that we can upgrade it at, because we do got as much money as we do next year. You do got to build a team around Kyler so the excuses can kind of go away, because it always does feel like there's something, right? Oh, the O-line. Oh, it's now Drew Petzing, which is our offensive coordinator for the last 2 years. Oh, now it's this. No, it's that. It almost kind of seems like everything that happens with Kyler Murray, there's something that comes along with either his fault or not his fault. You got your Kyler Murray stands, and then you got the Kyler Murray people that are waiting in the bushes to jump on you. Told you so. I told you he's not good. So this year right now, I think 8 wins to me would appease a lot of the fan base. And then of course the way we attack the free agency, 2025, you got to contend. You have as much money as you do, and you have a franchise quarterback that you're paying as much as that you are. So you got to contend. Like I feel like the excuses to me should have stopped earlier, but technically I guess it stops next year.
So it sounds like you would roll with him even in the consensus that you solidly feel in that camp, and that if this continues where it is, not that it's continued bad, just where it's as, and
Yeah,
it
I
fits
mean,
the form.
we're in a weird situation because like if we do win 8 games, right, we're going to be in a situation where we're going to be picking somewhere around 15, 18, something around that, unless the Cardinals make an absolute decision to try to trade up for a specific quarterback within this draft class, which to me, I'm not really too big on this draft class. But of course,
Yeah.
if they're interested, then of course I start, doing some scouts, and I start looking into like those specific guys. But like, I don't know. I don't know that the Cardinals are going to do that, especially if you win 8 games. I feel like the Cardinals will be good because one thing that we do a lot within this organization / fan base, progress. What we're looking for, progress. Doesn't matter that we're 6-6 with 7 games left. It's about the progress, because from 4 wins, if you get 8 wins, it makes it seem like, oh, we got better. And technically it's the truth. But I don't know. My standards are a little higher in terms of like, I don't know. I would love to see the Cardinals win the division. And right now, 2 weeks ago, that was the plan. Now we just want progress. So it's so wishy-washy, man.
I think you definitely got that this year, and it's a very interesting question, because you do wonder about the potential of the auspice of like a Jared Goff kind of situation going on with the Rams.
Yeah.
Where they were at that same kind of place in the contract, maybe even a little early on that contract extension they had given, to say, okay, well, we like the guy, but not good enough for what we want it to be,
Right.
where we want it to go, or pivot to a place where they have the rookie quarterback on a rookie deal, maybe not a first rounder, and lower that cost to then build up the rest of the team. Because you do get to the point, as I've been at times on some of these quarterbacks, and I'm not here with Kyler necessarily, Mike, but it's a suspicion in my mind, is that, okay, you want to be the highest paid, this high paid quarterback, you want to be at this high water mark, but then the supporting cast all needs to be on point for me to get the most out of you.
Right.
And that's the math that just doesn't start to add up when you talk about a guy that was taken, I think I was checking today, there's a couple points in this year's 18%. I think in 2 years, he's taken up 18% of the cap. That's substantial.
It is. No, it is. And then that's the thing too. Like, we got, because I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, I was on board for Kyler to get extended and to get paid at that moment, because of course it's cheaper when you do it earlier, especially if your organization believes in that guy. And I thought that they did believe, and they did, but obviously with the whole Steve Keim situation that happened, he's gone, the new regime comes in here, and they were bought into Kyler Murray as well. Now I'm not sure if it's because they looked at him and it's like, oh man, he's got the abilities that everybody sees that he can do. He could potentially be very, very good. But like, with what we're seeing from Kyler, like, and I'm not trying to bag on him or anything like that. I'm going to ride with my quarterback through and throughout until he's not my QB. But like, we're still seeing the same mistakes that he's done from year 1 to now year 6. Now I get it. There's been a lot of injuries that happen here, so he hasn't really had a full 6-game sample size. But you got to look at it. 6 years, 1 playoff appearance. We got blown out. We didn't feel like we should have even been there. And then injuries, and I don't know. It's hard to justify you getting paid one of the top 10s when you, like you said, you need that supporting cast in order for you to succeed. You got Marvin Harrison Jr. Now people are starting to kind of go on Marvin Harrison Jr. saying that it's his fault when, he had 5 targets, 5 receptions. And I look back at the film, most of those throws that were thrown to him were either over his head or miscommunication between him and his quarterback. Like, it's just nuts to me that people would throw people under the bus to try to save their precious quarterback. And to me, I like to look at everything. Everything needs to be established. Everything needs to be evaluated in my eyes. So like I said, I'm not out on Kyler, but I'm one of those guys that looks at everybody. Everybody's to blame in this offensive woes right now, because it's not like it's not like a 2-game sample size. This has been happening since the beginning of the year that we've been struggling with the offensive woes and the inconsistencies. So that's just kind of where I stand on it.
I don't think there's an easy decision with Kyler. I'm not an anti-Kyler guy, of course. I've got my spot where I think he kind of fits into, which is still a top, he's on the upper crust of quarterbacks in the league, as far as like, inside the top 15 to where you want to put him. Inside that point depends on the person. I do wonder, like what you say with this on it a little bit, and it's just, I don't know it. It's just a suspicion of, are there some things that are those flaws in his game that exist, that are things that can't be developed past, or, that like we have to build such a super strong team up around, that then it comes back to the conversation of, well, then I don't need to be paying him 18% of my salary cap. And that's why I broach this subject, is I think it's one of the really important ones for your Cardinal organization standing in front of them this offseason. And as we've seen with so many teams, and that pivot point decision you make off, then so much determines the success moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to be very clear here. I'm not coming out here and saying everything's on Kyler Murray. As he's the blame. No, I'm not saying that. I just, I think the expectations for me is a little higher, especially when you're getting paid the tag that you are. And you're right. You would hope that these things that we see in year 1 to now year 6, they would be developed into getting out of that habit, that specific issue that he's been doing. Like, and a couple of things is like he just doesn't know where the sticks are. Like one of the most irritating things that I've seen. He just doesn't know. He runs out of bounds. He loses a yard or two instead of throwing the ball away. Or even in the Vikings game, where the way that we handled that specific last drive, I'm not saying it's all on Kyler, but there was a specific play where he was rolling out to the right, and instead of going out of bounds to save a timeout, he tries to juke a defender, and he falls inside, inbounds, and having to burn another timeout. Now, that whole drive was a debacle to begin with, but like, I don't know. It's just you expect your franchise quarterback to get you a first down or at least be competitive to try to get that field goal to win. And it was just a disaster.
He's thrown that same kind of interception. I don't know if you've seen this before, that interception at the end of the game where he doesn't get enough of the float over the top. Like he's not putting enough air under it and it flattens out. Remember against us at home a couple years ago, Hollywood Brown and Tariq Woolen's on the play? That interception looked exactly the same where the defender jumps up in front and you can see it's because the ball's on too flat of a plane. He doesn't put it up. Oh, and he does that at times. It's not that he's got. I've seen him do it at times with even Harrison in the back of the end zone and on a fade ball this year where he was able to get the moon kind of shot to it a little bit. But I've seen a few of those throws where he'll just kind of flatten it out on the throws just a little bit.
One of the interceptions that he had in the Vikings game, when he talked about it, he said he was supposed to throw the ball away. Like that was his intention to throw the ball. And it was just, oh my God, it was a moon ball. Like I kid you not, it was a bad decision that was made, and it was an easy pick by Byron Murphy. And of course, our fan base, that you should have contested catch at that ball. It was just not a right decision by Kyler Murray to do that. And then of course the last interception was a forced ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. where he shouldn't have been. The ball shouldn't have gone there. It almost kind of feels like when he's sending it to Marvin, it almost kind of seems like it's forced because we're so used to doing this dink and dunk type of offense that I feel like that's what Kyler Murray is so used to. Now, yes, James Conner's wonderful. Yes, McBride's wonderful. Those are great safety blankets to have. But if you're playing that whole bend but don't break, and especially if you're in the red zone and we beat ourselves with the constant penalties, we're finding ourselves at 1st and 20, dinking it over, and let's say we're in a 3rd and long. I kid you not, Kyler Murray in that last game in a 3rd and long didn't even try to throw the ball and convert a first down. He threw it in right here to Amari DeMarcado to gain 1 yard in the flat. It's like, I don't know. I just don't want him to get used to just doing this over and over and over again. And I feel like it's ingrained in his head right now, and he's got to get out of it.
Yeah, because especially if you want to run the ball first and foremost, then you're pivoting off that to always throw short. Well, it's very easy to compress down on the run game, which then compresses down on the shorter routes because you're already kind of standing in the spot. If you're bringing a safety down or you got your guys in press coverage, so it's you got to be able to counter that by pushing the ball up the field. And it's not just the 9 routes; it is those. And I do feel like it's not Kyler being bad with Marvin. Just feels like they're just in that first year of two guys. Yep. It's something the Packers have done for years, man, where they don't go for the high first round guys. They'll develop the guys at the 2nd, 3rd round range because they want that chemistry thing 3, 4, 5 years down the line. They feel like they get a real benefit from that.
Fair. Yeah. And especially when you're the 4th overall pick, a lot of eyes on you. And it's crazy to me that people are already bagging on him. I get it. He's seen to be a generational talent coming out, but at the end of the day, he's still 22. He's still a rookie. I mean, he probably needs to make the adjustment from playing with obviously people his age to now grown men, right? 24, 25, 30 years old man. It's different. So he's got to make the adjustment. I'm not saying he's got a perfect game. No, not at all. But I still do believe that 4th overall pick was Marvin Harrison Jr., and I do not regret it.
No, I think he's still going to be a very good player for you guys. And it's just getting, sometimes quarterbacks and receivers aren't always instantaneously. Sometimes they got the great chemistry from the jump. It's a hard to pin. You work on it, give them the time together. And I trust Marvin will be fine long-term.
Agree.
Is Trey McBride having the best season for any tight end in the NFL this year?
I mean, he's up there. No, Trey McBride's doing fantastic. He's doing really good. And here's the thing, like, it might be because, like I mentioned a little earlier, Trey McBride is the safety blanket of Kyler Murray. He's a safety blanket of Kyler Murray. Now, the crazy thing that's happening is that Trey McBride still has yet to have a receiving touchdown this year. Wild. But yeah, no, he's always open. A lot of these short routes that Trey McBride's getting open, he's a perfect weapon for Kyler Murray. And I'm very curious to figure out if we didn't have him, where we would be at in terms of just like offense in general, because our offense does run through our run. Like James Conner is the sole workhorse, but when it comes down to, receiving, Jonathan Gannon said it before the Vikings game. Oh, we're gonna, everything's gonna go through Marvin. That's not the case. Everything goes through Trey McBride, and it's not a bad thing to have. I'm not saying, oh, it should be opposite. I love it. I think it's great. I think Trey McBride is an absolute beast, and it took Zach Ertz to ask to be released to finally get a dosage of really who he is. So I'm excited. I really am. I'm excited to see what he's going to do, but I don't think people are really going to start looking until he starts racking up those receiving touchdowns. But no, to us, he's probably the best tight end we've had in an Arizona Cardinal uniform.
Yeah, I can't think of another guy that has been this impactful or this good for you guys throughout my time. You never used to ever have many tight ends roll through there, many like prime guys go through there. So it's but he's been so good. Killed us 12. I don't know how many catches he had a couple weeks ago. It was pretty crazy. With the OC right now and some of the fans having him on the hot seat, in their mind, where do they look at pivoting off that if they were? Because I think the guy's done a very good job in so much of how he's changed the offense from where Kingsbury had and custom fit it to getting you in a lot of ways. I think you give him a lot of the credit for why you guys are kind of making these steps from the win total column on top of the defense playing as well as they have, of course, too. But he's doing somewhat, to me, my casual, a bit of an equal kind of situation there and how you guys, because you didn't run the ball that well under Kingsbury necessarily. I mean, Connor was good, but it's been a bit different to me the past couple of years. What's your perspective?
The biggest knock that I'm seeing is the situational play calling. When it comes down to Petzing, because I mean, there's no doubt that our offense has changed dramatically from Kingsbury to Petzing and what he's running, right? More of the grittier type of football that we're not pretty boy football anymore. Is what I'm trying to say. Like we're really trying to beat you up. Physicality, that's what they're preaching here on the offensive side of the ball. So the most thing that people are saying right now, at least what I'm hearing, is the fact that the situational play calling, like let's say, for example, in a couple of different occasions, they were like sitting at a 3rd and 6, right? And we decided to run the ball. And maybe not with just James Conner, with like a Martin McCardo or Trey Benson. Here's the thing, like in the second half, when they actually did it actually somehow worked. Now, I don't know if it's going to be one of these things where, like I said, I'm just jumping to conclusions here. I'm trying to grasp at straws as much as everybody else is. I don't know if they truly feel like this offense could have converted it at that time. Now, yes, would I have loved the offensive coordinator to put the ball in the hands of Kyler Murray, right? To make that 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 6, or heck, maybe even going for that last drive for a potential, instead of a field goal, going for a touchdown and potentially going up by 2 possessions. Yeah, I would love that a little bit more confidence. But with what you're seeing from this offense, like I've said this before on the roundtable, it just feels clunky still. It does, especially when it comes down to throwing the ball mid-range, right? The 10, 15 yards, the deep ball. I'm not even going to mention the deep ball. Like it just seems clunky. When it works, it almost kind of feels like, damn, you got lucky. You got really, really lucky on that one. Everything is so short. And that's probably one of the main reasons why, Kyler Murray's got such a good QBR rating right now. And, he's getting his yardage up like that, but everything is so underneath that we expect our James Conner, Trey McBride to make those plays, even when it's a 2-yard catch. The yak. That's what we're kind of predicating to do. So that's kind of the biggest knock that I'm seeing right now. It's not even like, oh, get Marvin Harrison Jr. the ball more. It's, oh, situational play calling. Why are you going on a run on 3rd and 6, right? Oh, why are you doing this? Why are you doing a screen play to Dortch as opposed to Marvin? Which I do agree on that. Like we should have specific plays. Like if we constantly preach the idea that you need to get the ball in the hands to Marvin Harrison Jr., why don't you do a screenplay to Marvin Harrison Jr. as opposed to Greg Dortch? Now, I have no issue with Greg Dortch, but like if that's what we're constantly hearing, you should probably do something. So to me, I'm not on the fire Drew Petzing train right now, unless we go to a completely disaster, like in this end of the season just crumbles. I'm not there yet. I'm one of those guys that I'm like, he's actually done pretty good. Like, look at the film. Like, it's not his fault that we're not converting these 3rd downs. It's drop balls, penalties that are killing us, or just decisions that are being made by the QB. Right. So it's not all Drew Petzing to me. A lot of the fan base doesn't like that. And it's kind of what we talked about yesterday on the roundtable. Sometimes people just don't want to hear your truth, right? Sometimes they want to just hear the fluffiness, right? But other than that, that's the biggest knock is situational play calling with Drew Petzing. I don't mind him personally.
I just keep coming back to wide receivers, man. On if you had a burner on the outside, if you had a gadget guy that was a true gadget guy that you could go to those plays to. Now, does the offense find so much more effectiveness than with those kind of guys added to the mix on it? And I keep coming back to thinking, yeah, they would. That it would be, but that's maybe a little bit what's missing right now. Is you just don't feel like you have enough of those counter weapons to go. It's kind of McBride or Harrison or the run game. And that's kind of where you're stuck at. And Wilson's he's not a bad receiver, Wilson, and Dortch isn't a bad slot. They're just not separators at the position, is how I would put it.
No, that's fair. I was pretty. I know you weren't on the roundtable in the beginning of the season, but I was gloating about JSN. And everybody's like, "Oh, he's not gonna do anything." And then we're starting to see the glimmer of the shift now of him being that playmaker for you guys. And that's what you're talking about, right? Somebody like him. Yeah, no, I agree. That would be cool. I mean, like I said, you opened my eyes 2 weeks ago because I wasn't even thinking about it. But if you did get somebody like that, that would be actually pretty ideal.
I think it's where you get a solution there without the fire thing, where you can come back and see it does fit back to personnel, especially having the money to spend, and wide receivers, you can find them. You can find specific guys for specific skills. If you need, you have Harrison, you got the number one guy, you got the easy part to get. It's like the offensive line, you get the franchise left tackle. You've done the hard work basically. Yeah, you got more work to still do, but you've taken care of what you need to take care of.
Yeah.
How's the health situation in this team right now? Holding up here as we go into this game?
Pretty good. No, pretty good. Like I said, the biggest, I guess, I wouldn't call it X factor, but the biggest guy that we're gonna have is gonna be our 27th overall pick, Darius Robinson, gonna be playing most likely. We did actually see a bigger snap count last week in his debut than I expected. I was expecting like 20%, but he played like 40%. He played a good amount of the snap count for the defensive line. He looked pretty good. I mean, just the rookie. I mean, he hasn't really done anything in the stat sheet, but you could tell the impact that's already kind of being made here from Darius Robinson, whether it's just like the disguisable blitzes and him doing his job and then taking his the guy in the defensive line. The offensive line out of the play, so linebacker can kind of shoot right in there. I mean, he's done a pretty darn good job right now. Definitely just plays that he wants back for sure, but for the most part, he seems to be the number one guy that's different from week 12 to week 14. But everybody else is pretty healthy right now.
That's good. And yeah, he's I noticed he posted a 70 run block. I think your run defending grade, and that's where I kept coming. No matter what, to get you a pass rush first year, what you're going to get with him walking in the door is grade A. I think run defense coming off that edge. If not now, definitely in the short term. I trust in that in my evaluation. Don't know what the pass rush. I think it'll come along. Because there's guys that have been able to do that. He wins a little bit uniquely versus some of the other guys out there, even like an Ojolari you have that's all athleticism, first step quickness, explosion, bend, dip around the corner, those type of things, the traditional elements. But he can make it work, I think, with Robinson. We got a guy like that, a little bit like Derek Hall in the same way, and how he kind of tries to win off the edge in that same way with a lot of power. And if you got a good amount of power, you can make it work.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
LJ Collier, 3 sacks in 2 weeks. Make it make sense.
Former Seahawk. I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. And I mentioned this before. I think that was the last time we actually talked a couple weeks ago. This defense is going to get their sacks, and it seems like LJ Collier right now is going to be the guy that's taking advantage of the situation. I don't know what it is either. We don't got big names, and even LJ Collier is not a big name. The Cardinals are going to get 3 or 4 sacks a game. I have no idea why. It doesn't make any sense or rhyme or reasoning. The only thing I could think of is that he's got more opportunity. He's got a pretty good snap share in terms of being on the field a lot of times. It's the only thing I could really think of. I have no clue either, to be honest with you, but he's a pretty good player for the Cardinals. And it might be because of him not having to be that main focal point, always just kind of the rotation, having fresh legs. Maybe that might be what it is, but I don't know. Defensive scheme is pretty good. Nick Rallis has done a really good job in year 1 with the players that we have, like LJ Collier, Dante Stills, second-year player, a couple other players that nobody else knows, but for the most part, this defense has done better than the rankings have said that they've done.
Yeah.
So
agreed. Yeah. No, definitely agreed. And they, considering they got to manufacture that pass rush at times, and it was tough last week. That last series, you got 3 in a row, man, and you go that well for the third time. It's like a baseball pitcher throwing a changeup 3 times in a row. You go. When I saw it in the game, I went, oh, okay, because I'd seen the score before I saw the game, and then I went back and watched the game, and then you blitz him first time, you blitz him the second time in that final drive on the Vikings. Kind of works, and you've had Darnold at times when you've caught him, Mac Wilson with a couple sacks in the game. And then you come back in that third time and they're able to beat you, because then you're going to be singling up Jefferson on the outside at that point. The second you go that route with it, and you go, oh man, 3 in a row. That's tough to show a professional quarterback that and not, but I get why he does it too, because he's just like, I don't want to. And you guys have had some success by keeping the pedal down, even including games where you've gotten up on teams and not dialing that part back. But it did seem to kind of maybe nip him a little bit last week with going down to that well too much.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, and I think that was that fourth down play, that crucial, right? Was that the fourth? Yeah, that was such a, and we had him at fourth down too, but obviously a must-have for the Vikings, so they went for it. And honestly, like, it's such a heartbreaker the way that game ended. But like I've said this before, and on this, we had plenty of time to do something. Like we had a minute and like 10 plus, and with 3 timeouts, we had plenty of time to do something. It's just they didn't do it.
It started out great too. Kyler does the thing you like to see, which is quarterbacks on this 1 minute drive, 3 timeouts, hit the first down completion for 8 yards.
Yeah.
Now you're in a 2nd and 2. It always seems to help those QBs out versus when they're trying to just throw the ball down the field from the first down, 15, 20 yards. And you're like, okay, he's kind of rolling out. And it was a reminder of the Charger game. Same thing where he got the quick completion and then bam, we're starting to roll and we get it right up the field. You guys got the win on that one. And so it seemed like it was going to go, but it went right off, bit the rails. That running with the ball thing he did in that moment was the big thing that bit him in staying in bounds, I think, in that drive there.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that I was talking about. It's just I'm hoping he learns from it. It's the old thing I can go ahead and do, because it's not like one of these things like it's an anomaly. Because if it was, then like, hey, we're not a big deal, right? Okay, you learn from it, but it's just a constant thing, man. It's frustrating.
Yeah, and that interception you talked about with the moon ball too, I think that set off the Cardinal fans, is they had that horrible shot where it's on the field behind Kyler as he throws it, and the body language just looked horrible when he threw it.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, and
the ball still flew in the air. It's still like you get it big, but he did like a Steph Curry like shoot and walk away move, and like, buddy, that just got picked.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's one of those things too. And it's not even to mention his body language, but he's always kind of struggled with trying to compose himself. He's done a lot better this era or with this regime compared to Cliff, because man, he did not hold anything back from Cliff Kingsbury.
No, he definitely had his moments there where he'd show him, but hey, maybe that was rightfully so when we consider King. We'll see if Kingsbury's getting another job. I still can't believe he's going to get a head coaching job.
Yep.
Whoo! I know he's like had somewhat of a successful year with Jaden, but I just feel like that guy fails upwards like few coaches in recent memory. I don't quite get it myself.
Yeah, I think he should stay offensive coordinator, at least get a couple more years. But I get it though. Like if you were going to get it, we probably all would. But like it'd probably be short lived. I don't know. I just don't see it lasting.
The guys, there's coordinators that are just that's what they should stay in that role. We've seen those guys that are that way. Arthur Smith with the Steelers this year, going back to that OC role from being in Atlanta, not a head coach probably, but can be a really good OC for you. But that does, if the opportunity's there, they're going to want to jump on. He's got Caleb Williams potentially there in Chicago. That's the rumors we're hearing. So okay, I do get it. Without getting into specifics on a guy, if there was one position you could target this offseason and make that major crown jewel of your free agent signings on any position on this team, which one would it be?
I got to keep going back to the defensive line. I mean, although we got BJ Ojulari, we still don't know like what he is. We were all expecting a big jump from BJ Ojulari this year. Unfortunately, he got hurt this year and was a little hurt last year as well. So I don't know. I feel like edge is always going to be the thing that kind of comes back to my mind, because one thing that we mentioned, we just don't have that X factor. We don't. We got to try to do. We got to be creative when it comes down to causing pressure. But like as you've seen it, I mean, sometimes when Geno Smith has time, he's got a lot of time, back there to maneuver. And of course, if you give any quarterback that time in the NFL, you're going to find somebody, especially if you got some good wide receivers there. So I don't know. I feel like getting an X factor at the edge would probably be the most ideal thing here for the Arizona Cardinals to target. Of course, we got holes everywhere too. So like I wouldn't blame it if they go any other route, but I think edge right now is going to be my main priority. But like I don't really know who's going to be available. So it's also that as well. But even if it's the draft, like if we need to develop somebody that's going to get to, I'm cool with that as well. But like if we're going to spend money, I think edge. Is Hassan going to be available? That's the thing. I don't even know if I want to go into Hassan on anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, Hassan Reddick would be available. I don't know if you want necessarily him. Like I feel like you guys want to make a bit of a bigger swing. Like part of me would wonder if maybe you go and you kick the tires on Cleveland with Myles Garrett, because Cleveland, of course, with that Deshaun Watson situation, is probably going to start to need to look at somehow or another pivoting this thing around. And that is the one guy you could get some draft capital back for if you're talking about trying to hit the reset button from Cleveland's perspective. On top of you're not you're not getting his career anytime in the future, any place close to
Right.
contention with the way that team's sitting. So
Right.
I'm doing some advanced math here, but if I'm the Cardinals on that and that type of deals there to be potentially made, I don't know what the cost would be, but I mean, that might be the kind of deal that I would, if I'm Arizona, looking at make the big swing.
Yeah, I mean, because I was thinking about like who at edge would be available like in free agency. There's not very much that I would say, oh yeah, throw him the bag, right? So like you would have to do something like that if the Cardinals were going to like making a trade for either Myles Garrett or Crosby has always been a name that's kind of been floating around with the trade
Yeah.
deadline. But like we all knew they weren't going to get moved at the trade deadline. But
No.
maybe in the offseason if the Cardinals do make some sort of swing, that would be very, very ideal. I don't know. I just don't see Monty Ossenfort making a move like that. Granted, I've only seen 2 years under his belt, so I don't know. Although I would love it, I just don't see a move like that from him. He's very Patriots way. He's very Titans way,
Conservative.
like through the draft. Yeah, that's how they build it, through the draft. So it would be cool to see it. It's just I don't know. It kind of feels like a pipe dream.
Yeah, and there are some good edge rushers in this draft too. So it may be that he says, well, let's just go that one, especially where you guys will be picking. That's right in that spot where the Jared Verse went last year, and you get a couple of those decent edges with Dallas Turner in there, Latu went in that area last draft. So you're going to find some guys in there if you want to go that route. But if you did think the team was close, and I think part of me's wondered if he's been somewhat in this conservative mode just because of the fact of saying, let's get this truly to the right place. Let's build it right. Let's build it properly and make sure that when we're hitting that button, we're not doing it 2 years early or a year early. Right. We're actually doing it right on time.
Right.
And this offseason feels on time to me a bit.
He seems very much like that. Definitely keep to the plan. Because all the moves, even in the offseason from this last offseason, he's making moves that are like $10 million, which, it's a good amount of chunk. It's not chump change, but like it wasn't big splash moves out there. So yeah, I definitely feel like that. And that's the thing too, like Kyler Murray's time is, you got to build a team around him if you truly want to see what he's going to do. So I don't know. We'll see.
That's where we come back to. If you're in on Kyler, then you've got to be in on that process of let's build up the rest and the right around him. And
yeah,
100 million. I'm looking at the teams, man, with the other teams that are around him right now. Patriots 100 million, Raiders bad.
Yeah,
Commanders are good at 99 million, so that's a team that's gonna make some noise. But your Cardinals, the third team with the third most cap space this offseason. Vikings also in there, but most of those teams in that range are bad teams or teams like the Bengals that don't want to spend money. So
true, 100%.
You guys are as good a team in that space for that kind of cap space, and it's got to make you feel good about the way that's going to play out here in the future. You guys, your future's bright here, is what I'm trying to say for you Cardinal fans. It's definitely bright. We got a couple donations. V-Ray in the house. What's up, V-Ray? It's good to see you, man. The Cardinals are moving the same way the Lions did, with a steady improvement while doing things the right way after hiring the right head coach. Well, V-Ray, we often agree here, and I echo his sentiments on this entirely. I think that I'm not a guy, with me, Mike, that I'm not going to give empty praise out. I'm not going to, gas you up if I don't think it's the way. I'll tear it down if it needs to be teared down. But you guys are doing it correctly and doing it right, and there's definitely those teams that take that purposeful approach of we're going to do this right. We're not trying to microwave this thing or take the shortcuts. It doesn't always guarantee to work out. There's teams like the Colts, for instance, who've taken this approach and they can't seem to ever get it right.
Right.
But I do feel like you guys are doing it the right way as much as you can control.
I do, and I agree. And that's the thing. I don't talk about Jonathan Gannon very much, but I do feel like he's the right guy. I really do. I really do like him. I know there's all these, memes that come along with the pew 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 and fire in the gut. Did you take the bus? That type of stuff. But I really do think he's the right guy. I think he commands this locker room very, very well, and people listen. And that's what you got to have. You got to have a leader of men, and I feel like he is. He's quiet, subtle, a little quirky, a little weird, but I think that it changes in the locker room. And I think people really listen to when he speaks.
I do too. I don't think you get the team playing like they played the last 2 years as hard as they have when they're kind of talent deficient at times, unless you have a coach that's resonating in that locker room. That just doesn't happen where you just sort of luck into that. It's so much easier for the players to kind of quasi check out, do the bare minimum type stuff. And so I think you probably do have the right guy, and very, very dangerous. I look at this division, man. I see the Rams and the Niners in a fade mode a bit to me in the respect of this. 49ers definitely fading, and the Rams kind of quietly in the same place. Doesn't get talked about as much, but Stafford almost at the end. Donald's still going to have $33 million in that cap next year, eating their cap. Stafford retires. That's going to be putting them at like $55, $60 million on their cap next year of just dead money on their books. And that's not even, that's just two players. And so I look at these two teams, I go, it's you and us as far as we come into the future on this thing, and the way that this is materializing to me as we move forward, by the nature of how windows open and close a little bit.
True. I agree.
But thank you, V-Ray. Appreciate the $5 and well said, man. I think they're doing very much the similar type of stuff that Detroit does. They're not chewing off kneecaps. I guess what does Ganon want to chew off? If Campbell's a kneecap guy, what's Campbell what's Ganon going
I guess as
after?
long as you ride
Gut?
the bus and
Is
have
he
fire,
going? Is he looking for the fire in the gut? That's what he's
fire
looking
in the
for. He's
gut,
not
yeah,
chewing off kneecaps. He's looking for fire in the gut.
Yep.
Jeffrey Thistle, thank you for the $2 donation. Says we're gonna beat your butt again. Go Hawks!
Love
That's
the
good.
confidence. I love it.
I love it. Let's. It's a good spot right now. As much as ever. What? Give me. Where are you at on the prediction on this game? I know it's hard to pin with both these two teams because we're sliding week in and week out. You know, sometimes we're like ships passing each other in the night. You know, but
100%.
It's
honestly, you know, I got to go with my Cardinals. I really do. And here's the thing, like, what I'm leaning towards is and not so much the home field advantage, because I understand, like, we're one of those fan bases that we sometimes get overrun, and I know you guys travel really well when it comes down to even State Farm Stadium just in general. But like, I don't know, I'm leaning to the fact that like we just got to get this offense has got to click somewhere rather than later. Like, and we're playing in our element. Like, this is not going to be one of those slick balls. You know, everything is kind of like falling over, and I just feel like in that game, that pick six that Kyler Murray through was such a big deciding factor in that game. And I don't know, like, if we can just get our freaking offense going, our defense can help us win games. Like, that's the thing. Like, they're not going to shut people down. I mean, like, we have shut down some teams, but they're not going to shut down. Like, especially you guys is you're going to get your points, but we need the offense to get going. And I feel like we're trending in the right direction. I hope we don't go 0-3 in the hole, because then we're talking about different topics. But I don't know. I see the Cardinals pulling off this win. It won't be a beatdown. It won't be like that. I feel like Chad Ryland's going to kick a field goal. We're going to get back on track. I would say 24-21 Cardinals win.
You're gonna get. You guys are in your sort of that desperate state. I like to say you got the corner animal kind of game going on, where you got an wild animal in your house. You corner them. You got them cornered now, but that ain't easy. That's the hardest part's coming now, and it's to try to close them out, because those teams know what's at stake. They know what happens if there's a loss, and so you're going to get their best effort. You know, Ganon's letting that team know, hey, if you guys want in on this, this is a game you can't lose. And you guys' rushing attack remains one with Connor, where, you know, we've struggled at times against those more power backs this year and getting ground. It's been good in recent weeks, but that's definitely been one that we've had some issues with. So we did a great job a couple weeks ago, but like you also mentioned, a lot of that I think was a bit of maybe some of the elements at play helping a little bit on that. And we'll see if we can make it stand in the same way, you know, going on the road where it is going to be everything good, perfect as far as conditions. Nicholas Newton, thank you for the $5 donation. This question here from me on this one says, B, what are your thoughts on Laviska Shenault's release and not D. Williams? Go Hawks. Well, I think with D. Williams, the reason that they didn't go off of him is they don't have any confidence in anybody else to return punts behind D. Williams right now, and that they don't feel like there's probably anybody on the street that they can go sign that's going to make it any better there. So they probably just feel like they're, you know, stuck. When it comes to Laviska Shenault, I think that they looked at that and they went, you had 2 fumbles last week. We paid you $1 million guaranteed contract. You don't do punt returns. You have no ability to affect the offense at all, because they've shown no ability to put him out there, which I thought they would. And so all you do is kick returns, and yet now you're fumbling twice in a game. You have one job. You fail at that one small little tiny job, where so much of these players on these NFL teams have 50 jobs. You know, I'm on special teams unit. I'm also the number 2 corner. I'm on on kickoff returns. You got one job. You don't do it. Right. Not too shocker that you're going to release. And I'm guessing too that this probably has to do with a little bit of background stuff, work ethic. And if you're a guy that's not necessarily, I'm showing up early, I'm busting my butt, I'm out there on the jugs machine taking kick returns, and then you kind of have a little bit of a laissez-faire attitude, and then you're out on game day and you're getting some fumbles. You know, I think that's where that can put you in the crosshairs, and that's just what it did with Laviska. You know, our special teams, you almost cost us that game on their own. I've never seen anything kind of like it in recent history, Mike.
Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, no, I'm thankfully that Matt Prater went down. We just had somebody kind of step right in the role in the kicker role, so I'm cool with that.
He's been better, hasn't he?
I mean, he's been decent. I mean, he missed a kick against the Vikings, but he's been solid for the Cardinals. So maybe he might be the kicker for the future.
You never know, man. Never know. And you guys are playing Prater a good amount, right? He's not been cheap, right?
No, he's not. I mean, he was a solid kicker. It's just this year is just riddled injury, and he's getting up there in age. Just might be his last year. Might decide to hang him up, and then that's a good thing. We got somebody kind of waiting, and we're actually going to roll with Ryland. I think that's last I heard, because he's the hot leg right now. So we'll see.
He's so hot right now.
He's so hot right now.
Hot potato. That's an old Zoolander reference.
Right.
It always cracks me up, that movie. Will Ferrell's out of control in that one.
He really is.
Well, folks, do me this favor. Hit this like button on this channel here and do me this favor. As I said at the top, Mike's been kind enough to come in here and give us his time here as he did earlier 2 weeks ago. That's twice over. So the least we can do for him is click down the description link below. It's a direct link to Mike's channel here on YouTube. That's the AZ Sports Fan ! Click that link, sub on up to him, show him the love here. As like I said, he's been kind enough. He's going to be definitely back here on into the future. We do the NFC West Roundtable show every week on Tuesday, which is always a good time. Anything else we didn't cover on this game I should be aware of, Mike, that with your Cardinal team? Or
I'm curious to hear out your prediction. What you feel like is going
to well, I'm in the same way as you on this. You know, I've been in wish prediction mode for about the last 3 weeks, and I'll own that for what it is. I'm completely a biased in fan. I try to maintain my lack of bias as much as I possibly can, Mike, but you know, it's always something that's pulling at you. And weren't sure that this was going to be a season going this way for us a bit in the way that it has. It's a little, again, we got echoes of we're in kind of similar states organizationally, moving into a same. So we feel same sort of things like, well, maybe this isn't going to be the year. Oh, it is. It's kind of looking like maybe we're going to have a little bit of a year. And you start getting greedy, right? Your eyes start getting big. You're like, I'll take all of that side of the menu and I'll have some of those hors d'oeuvres. And you got to be careful with it. But at the same time, I'm not saying with a lot of confidence. I will say I think we come out with like a 24, 17, 24, 21. It will be another close game all the way down the line, I think. But I think that the defense right now and how they're playing is not just we've gotten hot here and they're just sort of, but that there's the tangible steps they took to get to the defense, the state they got to the Rams about 4 weeks ago has clicked in. Ernest Jones's impact, your 2 inside linebackers, the health of the team. We're getting Uchenna Nwosu back this week, who is our best pass rusher on the team. And that's going to help out, just even better. A defense already sliding now that it makes it even a bit more better. So I just lean back on that at the forefront of this game going into it. The defense is playing so good, and Mike's got this thing rolling 100% right now, and he's cooking, and you can just see, man, he is such a great defensive mind. His ability to call a game and put these quarterbacks into a bind, and just how it's not just trying to go to one thing. It's this constant amoeba thing that's always shifting and changing and moving, and he doesn't give the quarterbacks the same looks, and it's going to be a nightmare to play as a quarterback. Right. You don't know what you're seeing. You don't know what you're going to see post snap. Your head starts to, I think, spin a little bit.
Yeah. That's fair. No, he's actually impressed me as well. No, it's just the thing, man. You guys just don't have losing seasons, and it frustrates me. It's like, how do you get a new coach and you're here? It's crazy to me.
Well, and some of it's the money spent. We last 3 years, for instance, we're top 10 in the NFL in spending money, and it's part of why I think, in my opinion, our division has been so competitive for the last 10 years. Mike, is the fact that what you have out here, if you look at us versus other divisions, you have the price of doing business. You want to compete with the Niners, you got to go spend that money. You want to compete with the Rams, you got to go spend that money. You got to be up in that spot and willing to do everything you can to be there. And I think in our division, especially, you see a real drive at times of there being almost a little bit of hyper aggressiveness, to get things done. Look at that Stafford deal, for instance, with Goff a couple years ago. Right. They're really in that contract, but they're like, no, we're good, but we need to try to get to great. I don't know if other teams in other divisions necessarily would have done those kind of moves to be pushing it that hard, but they had the Niners, burned up behind them right on their butts, and they had to do it. And I think that's just the nature of this thing. So, yeah, you're right. We don't have it. I think that's what has helped us on it. We've also had 2 of our best coaches in the last 20 years in Holmgren and Carroll come through. True. So that also helps, where you got that in your back pocket. PGZ finishing off right here. Thank you, PGZ. I appreciate all the donos last night for me on the roundtable as well. So as I subbed to Mike, I watched him after we whoop him.
I love the confidence, man. Love the confidence.
Hey, that's fair enough. Well, hopefully we go get that dub. Let's come out of this healthy, Mike. Let's go ahead and just have it be us, you and us for the next 4 or 5 years. Had Jesse say in 2027. Yeah. So let's just go us to, let's say, call it 2027. Rams got to do all their turning over. So let's call it the next 3 years. It's you and us back and forth. So this is kind of the beginning of this. That sound good to you?
Yeah, man. I would love nothing more than that.
Let's do it. Let's just own this division. It's a 2-horse race as we go forward. Well, thank you, Mike, for taking the time out today and coming on into my house here. Appreciate you for doing that. And again, best of luck, guys. Come out just healthy no matter what happens. And let's just have a well-played game. Officials keep out of it. Let the players play and see where it all lands as it goes.
Absolutely.
All right, folks, we'll be back later today here at the Hawks Nest. Again, please hit that like button, sub on up if you get a chance. Big thank you to Mike again for coming on in the house here, as he has 2 times in 3 weeks. Layman, man, he's busting his butt. So very, very much appreciated. We'll be back here soon, but until that time, please do not you ever forget, go Hawks.
Go Cards.